Hi everyone, this is HM&S video number 61 and you are most welcome for it. Today we want to look at the difference between if-and IFerror in Excel. Now these are two important logical functions that many people always confuse them. And some people also do not know when should you use if-and when should you use IFerror. Let's switch on to Excel and we dive deeper into the difference between if-and IFerror. We have this small table here. It's showing some names and their positions. What we want to do here, we want to be able to select a name from this cell here and then display the position of that name on this cell here. Like for example, if I come here, then I select, let's say, John. I want the position for John to be displayed on this cell here. Now, on HM&S video number 43, we talked a lot about how to use the match function. And the match function is the best lookup function to look for us that position. Now let's see how we can do that. I'm going to click on this cell and do equals to match. When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. The match function needs some lookup value, comma, then you give it the lookup array, and then comma, and you select the match type. Now if you want to learn more about the match function, watch HM&S video number 43. We talked a lot about the match function. But I'm going to backspace. Now for the lookup value, we want to look up the name which is selected from this cell here. So I'm going to click on that cell and then comma. When it comes to the lookup array, this is the array of all the names. So I'm going to highlight the entire names like this. Now comma to go to the match type. This is where you select whether you want to do approximate match or exact match. So for our case, we want exact match, which is 0. So I'm going to down arrow to select exact match, tab to select it. Now at this point, when I close my bracket, and then I control enter, you can see the match function is telling us that the position for John is 2. We can even see it from here. John is number 2. Now when I come here, and then I select another person, let's say Jerry, the position for Jerry is 4. Now what if I come here, then I type a name which is not found among the lookup array, let's say Lee. When I hit enter, you can see the match function return for us an error. That means Lee is not found among this list here. What if instead of an error, you want it to display something which is easier to understand? Like for example, not in the list, you can use the if-and function in that situation. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to come back here, click, and then hit the F2 key to put it in edit mode. Now I'm going to put the entire match function here inside the if-and function. So at the beginning of the match function, I'm going to click and then do if-and. When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. Now the if-and function needs the value, then you give it the value if-and. Now for our case here, the value is going to be the entire match function. And this match function, we have already seen that it returns an error if the name is not among the list. That means for the value argument here, the match function is going to return the position of the name if the name is found among this lookup array, or it will return an error if the name is not among the lookup array. So for the value argument here, I have the match function there. So I'm going to come at the end, click, and then comma to go to the value if-and. Now for the value if-and argument, if you are going to put the text, you need to put it in double quotes. So I'm going to do open quotation and then type not in the list and then close quotation. Now this is all we need. I'm going to close my bracket. Now when I control enter, you can see instead of an error, it's now giving me not in the list. So let's see. When I come here, click and then change this back to John. John is now in position 2. And you can see the position 2 is John. When I come here, click. Let's change it to Peter. Click. We can see Peter is in position 8. We can also confirm it from here. But again, when I come here, type a name which is not found among the list. Like for example, Mark. When I hit enter, you can see we are getting not in the list. So that's actually how you can use if-and function. Now let's see also another way how we can do it. So I'm going to click on this cell. Let's quickly do the match function equals to match. Tab to select it. The lookup value is going to be the name which is selected from here, click, comma, the lookup array is going to be the list of these names here, comma, and then down arrow to select exact match, tab to select it, then I'm going to close my bracket. Right now when I control enter, I'm going to get NA error. Now this NA is actually an error in Excel, meaning not available. That means we can also use IFerror function to do the same thing as IfNA function. So let's see how we can use IFerror function to accomplish the same task. So I'm going to hit F2 to put it in edit mode, then come at the beginning, click and type IFerror. When I see it highlighted in blue, I'm going to hit tab to select it. It has the value argument and then you give it the value IFerror. Now for our case here, the entire match function is actually sitting on the value argument of the IFerror. So I'm going to come at the end, click, and then comma. Instead of value IfNA, here we have value IFerror. But it works the same way as the value IfNA found on the IfNA function. Now for the value IFerror here, I'm going to open quotation and then type not in the list. And then I'm going to close my quotation and then close my bracket. Now when I control enter, you can see we are getting the same results, not in the list, not in the list. When I come here, select HM&S. HM&S is in position 6, so it's actually working. Now here I'm going to double click. We type not in the list in our formula, escape. Also here double click. We type not in the list in our formula. But we can actually type it somewhere else, then we refer to it using a cell reference. Let's see how to do that. I'm going to click on this cell. Now I've already done the match function the same way we have been doing it up there. We need to use one of the two functions. I'm going to use IfNA, click and do IfNA, tab to select it, then come to the end, click. Now comma to go to the value IfNA. Now for the value IfNA, instead of typing it in our formula, I'm simply going to click. I've already typed it here. I'm going to click and then I'm going to close my bracket. Now when I control enter, I'm getting position 6. That's because HM&S is on this list. But when I click here and change this to Leo, when I hit enter, you can see in all the series situations, I'm getting not in the list. Now we have seen how to use IfNA and IFerror. What is the difference between the two functions? Let's scroll down and we see our last example and also the difference between the two functions. Now all these you are seeing are different errors in Excel. On HM&S video number 11, we talked about the situations where you can get all these errors. If you want to know more about these errors, watch that video. Now here we have this table. It's showing the months, the quantity of the books, and then the total cost of the books. So we want to come to this column and then we get the cost per book. That means we need to divide the total cost of the book by the quantity. So I'm going to click on this cell, click, and then do equals to. Now the total cost is going to be this, click, and then you divide it by the quantity of the books. The quantity is this, click. Now when I control enter, and then I copy my formula down, you can see this time around, instead of getting an NA error, I'm getting a divide by zero error. A divide by zero error is an error that you get when you divide the number by zero. And in Excel, when you're doing maths operations, an empty cell is seen as zero. So when you divide an empty cell by another empty cell, you are dividing something by zero. That's why you get a divide by zero error. Now, if you are getting a divide by zero error like this, and instead of a divide by zero error, you want it to display something else, for this particular case, you cannot use IfNA, because IfNA only works if the error is NA. But IfError function works for any error you are seeing there. But let's try to use IfNA function and we see what we are going to get. So I'm going to click on this cell, hit the F2 key to put it in edit mode, then come at the beginning, click, and then type IfNA, tab to select it. The value is going to be our formula, then come at the end, click, and then comma to go to the value IfNA argument. For this case, we are going to type invalid. So open quotation and type invalid, and then close quotation. I'm going to close my bracket. Now when I control enter, and then I copy my formula down, Now you can see the divide by 0 error is still there, because if NA function is trying to look for an NA error and it's actually not finding it. That's why it's actually returning for us the divide by 0 error the way it is. Let's also do if error and we see what will happen. So I'm going to come to the top cell, click, and then hit the F2 key to put it in edit mode. Now instead of if NA, I'm going to change it to if error, backspace, backspace, then type error, tab to select it. Now for the value, we have our formula. Then for the value if error, we have the invalid, which is put in double quotes. So when I control enter, then I copy my formula down, you can see we are now getting our invalid for the case of the divide by 0 error. So the difference is this: if NA works only if the error is an NA error, but if error works for any error including the NA error. What if you want to display an empty cell instead of invalid? I'm going to click on the top cell, click, then hit the F2 key to put it in edit mode. Now for the value if error argument, this one here, instead of typing invalid in quotes, I'm simply going to type there double quotes with nothing inside. That's actually how you can do show nothing in Excel. It's called a zero length text string. So I'm going to remove the invalid, click, backspace until you remove everything, and then you remain with just double quotes with nothing inside. When I control enter, and then I copy my formula down, you can see instead of invalid, it's now showing us nothing. So that's actually how you can use if NA function in Excel and if error function in Excel. Yeah, that is it for this particular video. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and if you found this video interesting, give it a like and then you share it with your friends. This is a video where we talked about how to use the AND function in Excel. You can click on it, then you go and watch it. Until next video, HM&S video number 62, then we meet again. Thank you.